Well, welcome everybody to the San Rafael Green Committee's briefing on sustainable strategies for businesses. This is the first of a series on high-profile, high ROI strategies for businesses. And our first one is on energy strategies for businesses, and the first of a bi-monthly series. So look for a June briefing on green certification and getting your green initiatives done. So today we're going to be talking again on profitable energy strategies for business, how to cut costs, how to increase the value of your business and increase the value of your properties. We've got some great experts that are going to be providing some real insight. We have Becky Menton from MCE. She's a director of energy efficiency for MCE. Joanna Perez Green is with Smart Lights, which is a nonprofit in the East Bay, helping companies with assessments, energy audits, efficiency projects. Dave Caney is with PG&E and leads our county's energy solutions and service programs. And Dave Kunhart, who is with SolEd Benefit Corporation, a leader in installing solar in schools and in our public buildings here in the county. So like I mentioned, our next session is June 17th at the San Rafael Corporate Center, and we're doing that in conjunction with Sustainable San Rafael. It's going to be a great conference. We've got a variety of Green Corp or B Corp and green certified businesses that'll show you how they did it and what they're saving and how they're increasing value in their businesses. We have a student coming in too from Marin SEL. It's the Sustainable Environmental Learning, the School of Environmental Learning at Terra Linda, and he's created an app that allows you to do an energy assessment on your house or your building, and then lines you up with auditors and contractors to help you actually execute it. So if our 17 and 18-year-olds can do it, we probably can be inspired and do it too. So I think it'll be a really good briefing for you all. All right. So we're going to start with MCE and Smart Lights. And let me bring up some slides for you all. This is designed to be interactive. We'll have them present, and after sort of each speaker, you're welcome to do some questions for them.
We are a government utility here in Marin County, and chances are most of you get your electricity from us unless you've actively opted out. Our emphasis is on greenhouse gas mitigation. As a result, we try to procure more renewable energy in our content than the incumbent utility traditionally provided, and we have been able to do that at a lower cost as well, which is really exciting for us as an organization. But I'm here today to talk about the thing that you should do before the renewable energy, which is energy efficiency. When you reduce before you produce, that actually not only reduces the amount of money you have to spend on your renewable energy installation, but it also reduces the amount of resources that have to go into generating solar panels. So overall, they're both part of the solution, but you should definitely do energy efficiency first. So a little bit, just quickly, one of the things I always like to clarify, we're partners with PG&E, we don't replace PG&E. MCE as a utility is in charge of procuring energy, but PG&E always has a role in delivering that energy to you. So they're the ones who are out there making sure the pipes and wires are up. If your power goes out at 4 in the morning, they're the ones sending folks out in trucks to fix the line and make sure that the energy delivery is maintained as possible. So it's just important to remember that we're all part of this together. Quickly, your power choices with us, because we are here to talk about high ROI opportunities. One of the quick things that you can do as a business is to switch over to renewable, to the deep green option, which is 100% renewable, for about $5 extra for the average residential customer, and for the commercial customer, you should call us for a rate analysis because there's a lot of variety in commercial customer types. You can have a 100% renewable option for your power as well. So that's pretty exciting too. Quick and easy thing that you can do. But to talk about our small commercial program, I'm partnering also with Joanna from Smart Lights, who's going to come up and talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the program. Community Energy Services Corporation is a nonprofit that is based out of East Bay. That's the organization that runs the Smart Lights program. We work with them, and we also jointly administer this program locally with PG&E. So it's a partnership as well with the local government partnership. I'm not sure if you know the sustainability folks at the County of Marin, but we work side by side with them as well for the small commercial program. As it turns out, small commercial is one of the hardest sectors to serve for energy efficiency. Raise your hand if you own your building. Not a single hand. Oh, we got one going up. And I should say that Bob Herbst here is the first feed-in tariff customer of MCE as well, which was really cool for us to have a groundbreaking on the solar installation for which we buy the power. But because it is such a hard sector to serve, there are so many people that pay their energy bills but don't have decision-making authority over the equipment in their facilities. You can't necessarily choose to buy your furnace, it's the landlord's decision, but then the landlord isn't going to be the one saving the money for the higher efficiency equipment. Also, in addition to that, there's a huge amount of potential in the commercial industry, but it's spread out over so many small facilities and so many different decision makers. It is really one of the hardest sectors to get energy efficiency implemented in. And because of that, we've developed a partnership with basically everybody throwing in everything they can to try and get these projects to convert to savings. So a little bit about the big picture here. There's approximately 120,000 commercial buildings in the state of California that upgrade their lighting, HVAC, or roof each year. So as I was mentioning, there is tremendous potential in this area. In addition to that, there is growing demand for green buildings. The commercial sector actually has received some of the most pressure and is responding to that to have more of a sustainability image. You see more corporate social responsibility popping up everywhere. Green business is actually a thing that is really well touted here in Marin County as well. Basically, and one thing worth mentioning is that there are new benchmarking requirements for businesses that are coming down the road from the California Energy Commission. Currently, they apply to 50,000 square foot or larger. They're rolling out to 10,000 square foot businesses, and they're developing regulations right now for 5,000 square foot and smaller. What that means is if you aren't currently aware of what your facility uses energy-wise compared to others, you're going to be required to do that. That's called benchmarking. And that will be something that you have to make publicly available so that people can see where you rate according to your neighbors. One good thing that you can do before that information becomes public is reach out to the programs now to get engaged with an energy efficiency retrofit, get ahead of the regulations, and then you're ahead of the curve. A little bit about what's going on in Marin, and I apologize for this being so busy. First, if you look at the graph on the upper, let's see, for you it's going to be the upper right, that talks about our building stock here in Marin County. And what I think is important to note about this is how much of those buildings fall between 1950 to 1975. Does anybody know why that's significant?
Energy.
Title 24 regulations, which applied to new construction and established building energy codes, went into effect in 1978, and they didn't really go into effect until the later years, like 1980s, when they started to get more and more stringent. That means that 797, the vast majority of the buildings here in Marin County, are pre-energy code. So that's a big deal. That means there's a lot of opportunity. That means there's lots of times leaky windows, maybe no insulation, old furnaces. There's a lot of opportunity to be had in those buildings. 56% of Marin commercial building stock is retail, 31% are office buildings. This helps us understand where those opportunities would be. Retail, there tends to be a lot of lighting opportunities. Office buildings, more HVAC, plug load, anything you plug into the wall, office equipment, those kinds of things. That's where you're going to find the opportunity. The pie chart on the bottom shows you where we're actually using energy in Marin. This is the electricity use in Marin County divided up by end use. You'll see that a large portion of that is residential. Marin is a highly residential population, and there's also a lot of big homes here as well, which use more energy than the littler homes. But you'll see that the entire second half of that pie chart is commercial and industrial. So while there's a lot more residences here in number than there are businesses, there's more energy used by the commercial sector. So you'll notice again that it is, for our climate goals and for our greenhouse gas mitigation goals, a sector that we really have to pay attention to. So I'm going to hand it over to Joanna now. We've been running the Smart Lights program in Marin for quite some time. She's going to talk a little bit about what's left on the table, and she's also going to talk about what the program can do for you.
Thank you, Becky. So I'm Joanna. I've been working with the Smart Lights program and with the nonprofit Community Energy Services for the past 5 years. The arrow moves forward. Just double checking. So has anybody heard of the Smart Lights program? Okay, we've got about half the room, which is great. So we have already spent time in San Rafael. We've done a fair amount of outreach in fall of 2014. We went to chamber members and we told them about the services that we offered. And in that time, we were able to do, so what we do is we go out, we do an assessment. So we did that for, I guess it was a total of 55 projects. 20 of them ended up going forward with the projects. We ended up saving collectively $17,000. And that figure is actually a reduction of the bill cost. So that's how much savings were accumulated in the following period. $19,000 of rebate went out from the utilities, and in total there were 121,000 kilowatt hours saved. So what are some of the general benefits? There were a lot of savings that were left on the table. The ones that decided to move forward with it did so because they saw that there were financial incentives to help them become more energy efficient. It reduced their energy bills. There were financing options that were available to them, so rather than spending all of the money up front on their own, we aided them in that. There are improved health and comfort. It also, if you change out, and I'm speaking specifically about lighting, if you change out your lights to newer, more efficient lights, it often correlates with improved productivity. When we work on these projects, we end up helping with a team that's very qualified. Many businesses don't really know how to move through this process, so we walk them through the process. So just to sort of reiterate what our program offerings look like, we have free energy assessments. We have rebates that range on average from 25 to 75% coverage. So there's just a small remainder left over for businesses to pay. We have pre-negotiated pricing for the contractors that we work with. We move through a project from start to finish, so everything from the assessment to the installation, any sort of quality control that's required along the way. And then the work and equipment is guaranteed for, the equipment is guaranteed for a year, and I misspoke. Our contractor's work is guaranteed for a year. The equipment is for longer. Okay, so there is on-bill financing. Are you going to talk a little bit more? Okay. But the reason why a lot of businesses want to move forward with these is because we offer incentives. What those incentives look like for small businesses is we have 20 cents per kWh, kilowatt hour. For medium-sized businesses, which is 100 to 200 kilowatt hour, it's 16 cent savings. And for large, which is 200 to 500 kilowatt, it's 11 cent. We are really trying to help the small and medium-sized businesses that wouldn't be able to afford these projects that will reduce their overhead costs. And so an additional kicker that helps them is with the whole building incentive. That is geared towards lighting, HVAC, refrigeration, food services, and building envelopes. So it's really a lot more comprehensive than the historic Smart Lights program. The lighting is pretty low-hanging fruit at this point. There are clearly reasons to reduce your HVAC system, and you can do that both by tuning up your actual units, but you can also put window film. All of these you can get an energy assessment for, and there's funding that will help finance that. So depending on the packaging, you can do 1 to 3 and get $200. Let's see, you can do a couple of HVAC measures, as well as one of the others that I mentioned. It's $450, and then one from the 4 different ones would be around $750. And we also have a kicker for referrals. So if you went through the process, really enjoyed it, or benefited from it and want to refer another business, you'll have a financial kicker. So the way the Smart Lights process works is you contact our nonprofit, we schedule time to come out and do an energy assessment. We walk through your facility, hopefully with somebody that is familiar with the operations. And we look at everything from, again, the building envelope, the HVAC units, all the way to the lighting. We figure out how much you're using, how often the lights are on, when your operations are. And then we create a proposal for you that breaks down your what sort of rebates you're eligible for, as well as what sort of savings you would see. And actually, here's what the bill would look like. And so for those businesses who are interested in moving forward, we end up connecting them either with a program contractor, which I mentioned before has agreed to pre-negotiated prices. They are typically lower than the standard, or we are happy to also work with one of your contractors. There's a lot of businesses that regularly have somebody they work with. We can work with them as well. The product gets installed, we do a post-inspection, and then we pay the contractor. So the business is only required to pay that remaining cost. And that is sort of what the project looks like. Does anyone have any questions regarding the smart lights process? Yes.
For your lighting, what's the typical payback period? Is it a year, is it 2 years? You mentioned low hanging fruit. How low is that fruit?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does depend. I see on average the projects that go forward have under 2-year pay periods. And actually there have been, because we've been able to rebate LEDs, it's closer to 1 year, which is pretty impressive.
When you say rebate LEDs, they're obviously much more expensive. So
Right.
I just see the per watt number up there. But a per watt compensation for a CFL is going to be a lot less money than for an LED, or a lot more money for a CFL than an LED in terms of offsetting the cost of an LED, right? So,
Yeah, so the way that we end up paying the rebate is by the energy savings.
Okay.
So the more energy savings you get from new equipment, the more rebate will go towards a project. Between that and the lowering price of LEDs on the market, it's made it so that we can competitively reduce the cost of it. It's affordable to a lot of businesses now. For several years, we couldn't really cover a large portion of an LED project, but in the past couple of years, we've been able to.
Are you able to see from whatever sort of databases you have of which businesses might be the most sort of out of the realm of what the norm is, to see which ones would be the most qualified for one of these programs? Like, it would get the highest rebates and thus be the best candidates?
Indoor marijuana growers.
I'm not saying specific business, I'm saying within the business categories, like if a restaurant typically generates X, Y, and Z.
Indoor marijuana growers.
So again, they're competing against themselves, but you know.
I do, that's a great question. So there's a lot of variability with businesses and where they'll benefit from energy efficiency measures. So a restaurant, obviously there's huge amounts of energy input into creating food. So that's where we can go into the kitchen, look at the equipment, and then change that out. Whereas lighting isn't going to be as large of the energy pie. Whereas an office is heavily linked to lighting, but also HVAC units. So each business type varies significantly. And then even within a business, within an office or those different sectors, there's a lot of variability, which is the benefit of these programs, is that they're all customized projects.
HVAC units, electric powered versus gas powered. What's the relative efficiency? It feels like electric is horrible and very expensive.
I can touch that a little. Electric when it comes to heating, especially since to make electricity, right now we burn gas, we send it somewhere, then we use electricity on site. So in addition to the relative lack of efficiency from unit to unit, there's those other transmission losses and efficiency losses at the power plant. However, there are new technologies coming on the line called heat pump technologies, geothermal heat pump technologies, which rely on refrigerant technology in order to use electricity to capture ambient heat changes in the air relative to what you want in your home. And those can be powered renewably. And so when you're looking from a carbon perspective, if you have a lot of opportunity to do solar panels at your house and you're interested in being carbon neutral, moving towards either electric resistance heating or heat pump technology can pave the way for that, even though on a standby, on like a source BTU comparison, they are less efficient than the natural gas comparative. Funny thing about the marijuana question, I actually was the City of Arcata program manager. Anybody heard of Humboldt County? So we looked into that. We were like, well, okay, first of all, what is the energy use intensity per dollar for the commercial production of marijuana relative to other industries, and found that it actually is fairly consistent with other products when you're looking at manufacturing. What we also found is that at the time, this was about 7 years ago, there wasn't really a competitive lighting product that could replace the high pressure sodium that they were using. LEDs weren't there yet. Something about like the wattage differences in the LED versus the high pressure sodium made it such that you couldn't switch out the product. So that was pretty funny. So get it outside was the bottom line. But I think actually there have been new advances in technology. We were actually on a lighting audit. I think, were you with me when I was shadowing one of the lighting audits that Smart Lights did up in the Novato area, and we went to pitch a lighting audit to somebody who, it turns out, makes LED lights for grow houses. And so they ended up instructing us. And they showed us around. I was like, oh, I didn't know that the technology is there. And they're like, totally is. So anecdotes, sadly. Anecdotes, yeah. But I think I'm gonna try to close this up here for our side of the presentation. A lot of this are things that Joanna addressed. Lighting is, especially for small commercial, especially for the types of businesses that we see, as much as 50% or more of the energy bill. So it can really be the biggest bang for the buck, for the quickest payback. But what the problem is that when you capture the lighting and then leave the HVAC, it's harder and harder to financially justify replacing that HVAC system, because when you couple it with the lighting, overall you're going to get a better payback than if you take the lighting and then leave the HVAC to be done later. It can take a lot longer to pay back an HVAC system just on its own. So that's the logic to trying to push people to do whole building, because when you do it all at once, it's going to give you an overall better financial return, and it'll make it easier to pay for that HVAC replacement. A lot of times the folks that we're dealing with are tenants, as I mentioned. If you refer the building owner to us, refer us to the building owner, we'll do the hounding for you to try and get that changed out. We have a lot of strategies for doing that. In terms of what kind of businesses are the biggest opportunities, actually refrigerated storage can tend to be the biggest. And where there is like a lot of refrigeration and a lot of lighting together in one, or where you can get the highest payback and the highest energy savings per single visit, as opposed to a place like this, where I'm willing to guess a huge proportion of it is lighting. There probably isn't much of an HVAC system. Maybe there'll be some like units up in the corner that you never use. They're a lot lower energy use intensity than a refrigerated warehouse might be. We do have financing options. This would be one of the things that I would talk to your landlords about if you made a referral. Our program that we have is something that can be paid back on your energy bill. We offer it at 5% interest. There's a traditional underwriting process because it goes through a third-party bank. We provide a subsidy to help keep that at a 5% interest. $10,000 to $265,000 sizes, and anything under the program qualifies. Also in Marin, we have something called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing. This is a really interesting type of financing because it's actually tied to the property, not the borrower. So it's not something that you have to be, getting your credit score reviewed or anything like that. It's actually just your property tax repayment history, and then the value of the property determines what kind of loan you can get. And then the other neat thing about PACE is that the debt carries with the property, not the borrower. So if you move out, the loan stays there. One more thing I want to pitch, I should have included it in the slide, is PG&E. Are you going to talk about the on-bill financing program? Mm-hmm. Great, so PG&E has a 0% on-bill financing program, which if you qualify for it is the best deal around. Yes?
How would that apply, what you're referring to?
The PACE?
To raw land, undeveloped land.
To To undeveloped land, there's only one PACE program which works for new construction, that's the Mello-Roos PACE. We're getting super in the weeds here, but essentially only in charter cities can the Mello-Roos program be adopted. So there isn't one yet here in Marin. There is the possibility that within the next 6 months to a year, there will be in San Rafael, and I forget the other charter city, Marin. Corey, do you know the other charter city in Marin?
I don't know if there is this.
I think there's one more, possibly Novato.
Nevada's not.
Nevada's not. There's one other charter city that I'm forgetting that could also use that program. So that would be the only one that applies for new construction on undeveloped land. The existing ones are all for existing buildings. And you can get more information on the currently operational program on this website. If you stay tuned to the news, we're looking at adopting an open market PACE approach and allowing a lot of different providers to compete here in the area, which hopefully will help drive down the interest rates.
PACE is available for residential as well, right?
PACE is now available for residential as well. There are some necessary disclosures if you're a residential homeowner that's interested in it that I would encourage you to read up on. You can ask me later if you want to know more information. Beyond energy efficiency, I'm beholden to point this out because, as I mentioned, we're trying to get to the area of carbon mitigation, greenhouse gas, and obviously water conservation should be on everybody's mind right now. We're in the worst drought that California's ever experienced, which is saying something. The governor just mandated a 25% reduction. Energy efficiency upgrades can actually help you achieve that. There's a lot of things that we do to help you save energy that also help you save water. So that's something that can be another value add to getting your audit. It's something you can tell people, especially here in Marin. I know people tend to be really aware and concerned about that kind of thing, so it can help you win some points with your customers. Renewable energy, we've talked about it a bit. Just one more selling point, an upfront investment in renewable energy can help you hedge against future rate increases. So that helps make good financial sense as well. Electric vehicles, if you accommodate workplace charging to support a green commute, that can really be a bonus to your employees. It can also be not that much more expensive for you as an employer, and it can have some nice lifestyle benefits to your employees as well, such as allowing them to drive to the carpool lane when they get to work so that they can feel better about their lives and be more encouraged to continue working with you instead of somewhere closer to home. And then finally, zero net energy is something where we're all trying to move towards the next step. Zero net energy is the concept where you're producing as much energy on site as you're consuming. Generally, that accounts for about a 70% reduction in on-site usage and then about a 30% boost in renewable energy production to help make that delta. And that's really the next phase. It's where we want to go. There are a lot of goals across the state to help drive there, and codes, as you may have noticed, are ratcheting up to get to a zero net energy. Marin actually has a really, really healthy zero net energy and passive house community. Some of the very forefront of developers in the world are here in this area, and so it's a really exciting way to sort of keep the Marin community at the forefront and go that next step. So our contact information is here as well. I'm not sure if the slides are going to be made available, but we also have cards up here if anyone is curious.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Chris, and thanks to the Green Business Committee as well as the San Rafael Chamber. Appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this evening talking about what PG&E offers in Marin County, as well as talk a little bit more about what can help you and your business save and find those low-hanging fruit opportunities, as well as engage in an ongoing conversation around energy use and greenhouse gas reduction. So I want to start with a sort of a big picture about PG&E and the policy arena in California. And the reason that that's important is that this is a pretty savvy group, so I imagine I'll get more hands than usual. But do folks understand why it is that a utility wants you to use less of their products? Seems to usually be counterintuitive to most folks. One of the great things about the policy environment in California, started in the 70s, was the decoupling of electricity and gas sales from utility profits. So what that does is takes away the disincentive to help our customers save, and then you add in a shareholder incentive mechanism for achieving energy efficiency goals, and all of a sudden you have a really good motivation to help partner with our customers. So we're really proud of this graph that's on the right side of the screen, the slide there, where energy use in the U.S. has grown over the last 30 years by 50% or so. In California, it's stayed relatively flat. There's a number of reasons for that, including a relatively mild climate, but a big part of that is the energy efficiency landscape here, and one that we've been a proud part of. We also recently announced and celebrated our 150,000th grid interconnection of solar. Something we're really proud about. We're well out in front of other utilities there. Certainly that's a big part of that is the California mentality and interest in sustainability, and certainly that's true here in Marin. And since 2010, we've paid out more than $758 million in rebates. Also, you see a note on there about electric vehicles. Those are growing significantly, and we're really excited about that. You may have heard that we filed to start a program where we would install vehicle chargers. We're looking at a portion of the market. We want to make sure there's a healthy stimulation there, but part of why we think there's been a slow growth in electric vehicle charging is this chicken and egg situation where if there aren't enough chargers, I get range anxiety. I'm not sure I want to have an electric vehicle as my primary car. We get enough of those out of there, and we have a nice feedback loop there. All right, there we go. So I want to, before diving deep into energy efficiency and what we offer for customers here in North Bay, I want to talk a little bit about my role. Also introduce Lindsay Knabel. Hopefully most of you know her. She's on my team here in Marin County to help businesses with our energy efficiency programs, any kind of service, billing, etc. issues you may have. It's also her birthday on Friday, so please wish her happy birthday. So I'm really excited to be able to work with Lindsay and her counterparts here in North Bay. It's a great way to interact with our customers. The other hat I wear is working with the operating side of our business and our leaders across the different lines of business here to help it be easier for customers like all of you to do business with us. The term we use internally is one PG&E. When we say that externally, people are like, yeah, of course you're one company. Can't you act like one? Yes, that's the point. That's why we get together as a local leadership team and based on feedback we're hearing from customers, try to make it a little bit easier for you to do business with us. We're really proud. We announced last year as our 6th year in a row of improved electric reliability. We're putting significant investments in our infrastructure system-wide, and especially here in North Bay. So if you see us working, that's what we're doing. We also have a strong focus on the community. Another part of my role is getting not only our local leadership team together, but also to get our employees here in North Bay and Marin County specifically engaged in the communities where they live and work. Again, one last, want to focus on the loading order. Again, this sort of goes in keeping with a number of things. Number one, Becky did a really good job of explaining why it is that you do energy efficiency first before you go to renewables. And there's even one step before that, which is energy conservation. So when we talk about energy efficiency, we talk about doing the same work with less energy. There are also some very basic behavioral steps you can take, things like turning out the lights, reminding employees to turn out the lights. Things like that can actually save a fair amount of energy. Power strips and other low-cost, high return on investment opportunities that we encourage. Then, of course, our demand response programs and ultimately renewables. The other thing I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of is the My Energy site. So that's something that you can use for both your home or your business. And if you're not already familiar with it, I encourage you to go home, go to pg.com, set up an account and log in. There's a home energy checkup you can do. There's a number of rate analysis tools and other things that are pretty nifty there. So definitely want to encourage you to check that out. All right. So there's a number of different types of rebates and programs that we offer. The most basic is a deemed rebate. So that's a per widget or per light bulb incentive that we offer. For more complex projects, new construction, or even a more comprehensive retrofit or retro commissioning, we offer calculated rebates. Those typically cost a little bit more, take a little bit more time, but also can have significant paybacks. We have our third-party program. So in addition to our government partners, we work with vendors in the community who are typically focused on particular technologies or customer segments. And they're experts either in those technologies or customer segments and really help both us and our customers save energy. We talked about the government partnership here in Marin County, and then the on-bill financing program, which is a 0% loan capped at $100,000 per meter, but for most small medium businesses, that's certainly well within range. There are a number of different requirements, and most notably the ROI needs to be less than 5 years, and it's designed specifically to be bill neutral. In other words, it's calculated such that your bill will be reduced by the amount you're saving energy, and then there's a cost on the bill associated with the project. Those projects are also eligible for rebates, so you can combine those together. And after that five years or whatever, after you've paid it back, you get to continue saving energy and saving on your bill. So definitely a great program that we're encouraging folks to check out. This is for North Bay overall. So North Bay Division in PG&E parlance is Marin County, Napa County, and Southwest Solano, so Vallejo and Benicia. You can typically divide these numbers by about a third and get what we're doing in Marin County, plus or minus. You'll notice that the first two measures here are lights, LED and linear fluorescent, but we also have building performance, HVAC, and a number of other control-based and refrigeration-based measures. So a real good set of opportunities. And again, this is last year. We're really focused this year on continue to focus on LED lighting. We have a HVAC tune-up program, and then of course any number of other offerings depending on your business, including refrigeration and refrigeration motors and variable frequency
Where do
drives.
all the pump line is a big line. Where do you see the pumps?
So pumps typically are associated with ag system-wide. Here in Marin County, we do have a little bit of that, as well as in Napa, but also wastewater is a big user of pumps. Wastewater, some clean water pumps, but the big one typically is on the wastewater side.
Okay.
And then highlight again, we've talked quite a bit already, but really the typical ROI for most businesses is going to be that low-hanging fruit around LEDs, but there are both new equipment incentives for HVAC as well as tuning up an existing system or retro commissioning. We have a pump tune-up program or pump replacement incentives. Refrigeration is a big one. Becky mentioned refrigerated warehousing, but also certainly in the food service space, as well as grocery stores and convenience stores and the like. And then lighting controls. So with that, that's my presentation. Short, sweet. Any questions anyone has? And again, I'm certainly a resource for you here in Marin County. For those of you who don't know Lindsay, get to know her. She's a great resource as well. We look forward to working with you.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
All right. Yes, questions? I always get nervous when there are no questions. So
How
thank
do
you.
your
I appreciate
incentives
that.
coordinate with MCE and the SMART program? I mean, is it depending on whether you're a customer of MCE or a customer of PG&E, or how does that work?
So we partner together to deliver that program. That program's available to you whether you're a PG&E customer, MCE customer, or
David Kuhnhart, Sunlight Benefit Corporation. We are a benefit corporation, so we were incorporated with the DNA in our incorporation papers to save public entities and others money as they go to clean energy. So I'm going to assume that you want to become a generator, not just save money and save energy, but become a generator and contribute some green watts to the system. What's the best route to get there? Well, a bunch of different considerations. Whether you are a homeowner, a business owner, a building owner, or a building renter. And I thought Becky was pointing out that the difference between being a renter and an owner was very significant. Whether you are in any one of those categories, the first thing you need to look at is just fundamental feasible physical characteristics. Are there beautiful big trees and a lot of shade? You're not a candidate for solar. Do you have right orientation? Do you have a surface of some kind that does have sun on it? Then are you using enough energy to make it worthwhile to go to the trouble of putting in some additional generation? What is the tax situation of you? Do you want to, can you use tax advantages or not? Green tax, are you interested in getting credit from Corey that you're going green and you're part of the solution? Do you care, or would you like to monetize that and let somebody else take the green tag benefits? Do you want to take on any kind of financing that is recourse to you, that you have to guarantee? In fact, Bob confessed that this fabulous system here is partly recourse to them. So he has utilized his own credit to go, but you can go solar without using your own credit, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then what is the rate that you now pay for your energy? If you happen to be in the Bonneville territory, well, north of here, and and the fundamental cost is 8 cents or 7 cents to your business up in the Portland area, it's not going to pay to have solar. But if you're in a territory where your monthly bill is a little higher, we've already covered whether or not renter or owner. So what are the choices? You can buy it. You can buy it all cash, or you can, and by that you would make the same kind of calculation. How long is it going to take me to utilize, pay back the capital investment in years from making that investment? It's going to be probably more than 10 years investment at today's costs of solar. You can borrow against it. You can borrow against it using the PACE loan program, and you can borrow against it if you're a homeowner, a piece of an equity loan on your own home. You can add to your mortgage if you've got an agreeable mortgage lender and get a very low rate on that. Generically, the word lease is often used for when you're not buying it, you're doing something else, but leasing literally means the equipment belongs to a leasing party and you're paying them a fixed payment. So the risk is on you to make those fixed payments on that lease, and then you get to use the benefit from that system. You are leasing it from another separate owner. The third way is to sign a power purchase agreement. And a power purchase agreement is a service agreement only. It's not a finance agreement. It's an agreement whereby somebody else owns it. All you're doing is agreeing to pay for the energy it generates. If it doesn't generate, you don't pay very much. If it generates a lot, you pay more. And that is all you're paying. You're not having to go out of pocket to come up with the capital cost of putting it on. The last way is the feed-in tariff, and this is what Bob has done here, and that is you buy it and you sell the energy, but you have to have an agreement specifically, and notice I put a blank in there, you have to have an agreement explicitly with PG&E, with another utility, with MCE. In our deregulated system, you could make that agreement with most anyone as long as you are able to prove that you have a reliable source of energy going out there, and they prove to you that they're a good credit on buying that energy. So those are four fundamental different paths and ways that you could use, and you can to some extent mix and match these things. And when you look at the considerations and weigh those against the options that you have, that's where you really need to analyze with someone, well, what's best for me? I have a really big tax bill in my particular business, so I'd like to keep the tax attributes, the 30% tax credit. Or, no, I'm sorry, I'm really at the margin. I do not have a big tax bill. We have a closely held company. And so I'll let US Bank, or a big player out there, take those tax attributes. So any questions on this? This is the most complicated aspect of my little presentation, is this interplay of the considerations that you have and the choices that you have. Bob?
Do you really have, is there really a lease product on the marketplace? All I hear about are PPAs.
There are some, and there is equipment leasing. There are a couple of different kinds of lease products. There's a company that specializes in municipal leasing only, and there's a company called Green Campus Partners that focuses on municipal and school leasing. It's unique.
But for a homeowner or a business owner?
For a homeowner, there are companies that will do a lease. They'll do a power purchase agreement. If I were you, if I were advising, to a homeowner which is best for you right now, and if you do have somebody in the household who has income that needs some shelter, I would say buy it with the cheapest loan that you can get, and keep the tax attributes yourself. Don't let somebody else own it. Don't sign a power purchase agreement. Don't work with the likes of me, who is offering a finance deal. If you have no tax appetite, if you are a school, if you are a foundation, if you're a hospital, if you're a city, like the city of Santa Fe, and you can't take the only remaining tax attributes, only remaining incentives, which are the tax attributes, then absolutely have somebody else own it and take those and push your energy rate down. And that's what the city of Santa Fe is doing through us on 6 different systems.
For a homeowner, do they run into the passive versus active income issue?
There is a special section of the code whereby homeowners can get the credit up to 30% of the system that's put on their primary residence, and
Okay.
primary residence either means first or second residence. And if, as long as you're not doing it on a rental property,
Okay.
then yes, you don't have the same problems with
Right.
limitations on losses.
And the depreciation as well?
And the depreciation as well.
Okay.
There's a question in the back. Or else you're just stretching. No, no question. Any other questions on this? So what do we offer in our power purchase agreement? What the typical sales pitch that's made out there is, well, this guy's going to charge you 4% more every year for the next 30 years, and so you want to beat that rate, right? Well, you know, in fact, you look back and it's variable and there's no guarantee. No utility in the U.S. guarantees what your energy rate is going to be next year or 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So you make a guess and you look back and you say, well, yes, in fact, in the past it's about 4% or at least more than 3%. And so a solar company comes in and says, well, he's the blue line, we're going to sell you the red line. We're going to have a fixed agreement and you only pay us 3% more each year for energy. And once I get that solar contract with you at 3% more per year, I can then finance that, pay for the system, and make a lot of money. And hopefully, my line, my red line, will be under his blue line. Hopefully, okay? I should point to Lindsay and say her blue line. Well, when we came into this, we said, we're a benefit corp, why not have a clean energy deal that's also a fair deal? And once we've paid off the capital cost, we drive the cost down. And so our rate will go up by 2%, 2.5% per year. And as soon as we've amortized the capital cost of that equipment, when we're going to use high quality equipment, just like the best of the solar companies, we'll then go down by at least 5% per year. Our deal with San Rafael is slightly better than that. And so out there, in the end, you can, you have more confidence that you're going to be under this alternative line. And second, you're going to be paying a fraction of either one of those lines. And that giant amount of savings belongs to you. And how do you get that? How much does the fuel cost? It does take some to operate, and we talked about the cleaning process, and you've got to keep the systems up. But there's not a gigantic operating cost in solar, and it's pretty stable. So our customer value proposition is that we just sell green energy for less. There's no upfront cost to you. We bear the cost of construction, financing. We get that done. You pay for clean energy, no debt. Nothing goes on your balance sheet, no recourse. We operate and maintain it, and your cost declines over time. What can be better than that? So if we turn to investors, and we've got a really good pitch to investors, which includes all of these things, great contracted cash flows with highly rated customers, quality builders, and therefore predictable outputs. We will have transparency. We will use a benefit corporation approach in dealing with you and our customers. That's our difference. That's our balance. Thank you very much. You get to the green button and you press that, and you can get an evaluation of when you're using the most energy, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, the hairdryer at 7 o'clock in the morning is the biggest draw in my house. If you can see that spike right there, then you know. We didn't know that our beautiful old pair of refrigerator freezers were terrible until one of them broke. We replaced it. It got a Green Star. I mean, what is that called? Energy Star. Energy Star new 1 unit. We cut our monthly electrical bill in half just by making that one equipment change. New refrigerator.
Can I pose a question too? To your point about cost, when we were putting together our contract numbers this year for our small commercial program, we found that from what we've audited in Marin County, there's over 1 million kilowatt hours that can be paid back in 3 years. I mean, that's a pretty achievable payback period for a lot of small businesses. I mean, 5 years is a little long, but even with that, we're finding that customers aren't taking us up at the opportunity. So I'm curious to hear other barriers from the audience about, you know, gosh, I would, but maybe I'm too busy, or the confusion I think makes a lot of sense, or if there's other sort of things that just stand in your way so that we can be ready to answer for them when we make our pitch.
I had a question to speak to that. I've been a homeowner for years and years and years in Marin. My most recent home that I was in for 12 years, you know, we get those nice bills from MCE showing that we were way over what other similar homes in the neighborhood were doing. And I couldn't find somebody to audit. I tried PG&E, I tried MCE, we replaced the bulbs, we put insulation, we replaced all the windows. I kept the thermostat at 63 all winter long, and had carpeting and all kinds of different things that I knew of how to fix, but I couldn't get anybody to come out and audit. I didn't know what else to do. And when I called, we talked to people and they said, well, have you done this? Yes. Have you done that? Yes. And we kept ticking all the boxes, but it would have been great to have somebody say, we're going to come out and look at your meter and figure this out. Or, I didn't know if we were grounding out somewhere, or if our neighbors were sucking, or we just couldn't. It took 12 years of scratching my head. And that was a barrier for me.
The knowledge thing.
Yeah, raising the issue of barriers. That was my
So to speak to that briefly, what we do with those mailers is we compare your home to 100 comparable homes in the same zip code. So it's not your neighbor literally. It's homes of similar square footage and occupancy and demographic characteristics that are located in the same climate zone and zip code. And if you look at those, they actually also have a website you can link to. And if you go to that website, you can do a home audit. So
I did. Yeah, I did that. Yeah,
and if you go to the contractor database, you can also research home energy raters who can actually come out to your home and do that. So I would be really disturbed to find out that you went to there and looked up raters and that they said no, they wouldn't come out. And I'm curious about, maybe we can talk offline about that.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I mean, I kind of came back around to, hiring an electrician to come out and, at $100 an hour to assess what was going on. And I didn't have that,
Yeah, there's a program, Energy Upgrade California, and so
home upgrade,
right, which is
rebrand.
Yeah, rebranded exactly. And so you can work with a contractor that can do a blower door test and figure out where there are leaks in the home. And I don't know if you went to that.
Yeah, we had, insulation along the door, the front doors, and everything. We had pads down there. We just did everything.
Right. And so much of it is about making it comprehensive. So you can seal up one door, but if there's a crack someplace else, then all of the pressure and air is going to go in that direction. So it's helpful to have a contractor that, again, checks absolutely everything.
And then the homeowner pays for that, right?
The homeowner pays for that, available rebates,
The home upgrade program is pretty significant rebates. In most homes, typically, especially with a mild climate in Marin, you're going to see, depending on how old your HVAC system was, and not only how old the unit is, but also how well sealed the ducts are. You can lose a lot of energy through poorly sealed ducts, and then hot water heating. So depending on how efficient.
Yeah, the heater and the hot water heater and the furnace were new, but I think you're right with the duct work. So that was just, such a large outlay.
Finding HERS raters in Marin is not easy.
Yeah, so there's two certified home house in Marin, and then there's Advanced Home Energy across the bay that comes and does work here locally. We have on our website, you can search by certification, and it includes home upgrade certified so that they can get you right into that rebate program that was discussed. We also, for our on-bill repayment program, I talked about the one that we have on the commercial multifamily side. We also have one on the single-family side. The challenge with those comprehensive projects is they're expensive. It's about a $12,000 average project cost. But the health and safety benefits that you get from those tend to be the selling point. Most of the people who participate in the program don't talk about how much they're saving, though they are. They talk about how much more comfortable their home is, how they can actually have their furnace at 68 and not be paying out the nose for energy bills. So that tends to be a really big selling point for folks, especially if you have children or asthmatic children in particular.
So on my energy side, I can get a no energy analysis.
You can take a look at your home at both months, billing cycles, etc., and that compares to average home, similar kind of concept, 100-like homes, and then also efficient, similar homes. It shows how you're doing relative to those.
Yeah, and we have similar functionality. We also have a contractor searchable and rebate searchable database on ours too, so those are interesting things to look at as well.
Even WP does it with water. Go ahead.
For a home or business, just because some of the homes, especially out in West Marin and then a lot of the businesses too, the buildings could be non-compliant. If they get an audit, are they at risk of having to bring a house or business up to compliance?
So I just actually, this would be a good thing for you to answer, because I just asked somebody about that. Not for the Smart Lights program, but when you do the both smart lights and the home upgrade program, there's a requirement that you get a permit pulled for any work that would trigger a permit. What I don't know is if building inspectors are out looking for code violations, while they're also checking to make sure that the work was installed according to spec. So that would be something that I could get back on. Do you know the policies?
The way you said it just
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's going to vary by jurisdiction, and any kind of work that's going to require a permit, an inspector will come out. So it's up to the jurisdiction, up to that
That could be
particular
hard to
inspector.
fear, that could be.
Yeah, definitely. We encounter that a lot with PACE too. People think that they have to get their house appraised to do PACE, and they're like, I don't want my property taxes to go up like 60% with the new appraisal. But you won't, by the way. They use Zillow and comparables, so you don't have to get an appraisal.
I was wondering if the whole focus on water recently is diluting the focus on some of the other energy conservation, or if you're trying to sort of partner with some of the water and sort of make it a little bit more holistic sort of energy saving.
Yeah. I mean, I can
sustainability sort of thing.
take a stab at that. We've been trying to get more integrated with all of our programs, where when we touch a customer, we don't just tell them about one thing, we tell them about a lot. And we've been partnering with the water district actually for the past 3 years to do that. So this year, most significantly, we've had properties who went to the water district because of the new governor's mandates, and they anticipated that there would be mandatory action coming. And the water district didn't have the staff or resources to handle it, so they referred them to us. So then when we went out and did our energy audits, we also worked with the water district to make sure we included rebates that were available through the water district. So we just had a meeting this morning with a significant multifamily property developer who is just as interested in the water, and we're finding that that's a real opportunity for us to pitch both at once, and that there might be things that they can do for which there aren't rebates, like replacing lawns or doing irrigation changeouts, that the rebate dollars from the energy measures can help fund those water efficiency measures as well. So we're definitely trying as much as possible to get more and more integrated. Generally, the more programs you have to go to, the more people you have to deal with, the less likely you're going to be to do everything. So just try to get it all in one package.
Good. Any other questions? To your initial question, I guess smart lights, you've worked with us a little bit with the chamber, and you've done some door-to-door things over the past few years. So I guess a couple of questions. One is, what drove you to that? Is that what you're finding, that that's what you need to do, is go out there and actually do FaceTime with people to really explain the program to get them to sign up? And then the other is, do you think that there's many of the businesses really are thinking ROI? ROI works for people that are really educated in business. And what percentage of businesses are really like that, or rather, instead had a passion and aren't really, they don't do things for ROI. They do things because something broke and I got to fix it. Because I don't have the time and energy to really deal with new investments for long-term ROI, you know? So that's kind of my questions.
It's great questions. Those are questions that we ask on a regular basis. Our historic model has been to canvas, to go into different business districts and talk to every single business. This was actually one of the first campaigns that we had done with the chamber. It was more successful than just going out and cold calling because there were multiple levels of outreach through mailers, I think through just conversations, as well as going out, and then I think there were also follow-up calls. So that approach was more successful than the typical outreach, which I think I'm on video. But it ranges from anywhere from 15 to 20%, and it's 5 to 10% better with this approach. What we're trying right now is to actually do a follow-up with all of our previous customers. I had mentioned earlier that because LEDs and other technologies are less expensive, we can actually see more savings and more appealing proposals. So we're trying to go through our backlog of projects that did not move forward and try to get those out and really walk customers through that. So we don't know yet where those projects will lead, but we're really optimistic that customers will see the added value. With regard to how sophisticated the businesses are on the economics, that really varies tremendously. There are some incredibly savvy business owners that are confident that they will be there in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And so those businesses tend to move forward with these projects. And unfortunately, those businesses oftentimes are already the ones who are energy efficient. So we go in because they've called us, they sought us out, we do the assessment, and then we tell them, you know, there's really nothing that we can do for you. You have motion sensors in all of your rooms. It's the small businesses, and it's the ones that are really busy that don't necessarily have the time to even look at the proposal. And something that we're doing that's new is we're calling them and saying, hey, did you even get the proposal in the mail? And they're saying, oh yeah, but you know, it's under a stack of papers. We're trying to follow up with them to remind them this is beneficial to you, especially if you expect to be there in the next couple of years. So hopefully that additional hand-holding will help remind them that it is really worthwhile. It's very challenging though.
You made an important point about a triggering event, so a burnout of a particular piece of equipment. So both making sure that we've got good vendor and contractor networks that are aware of the programmatic opportunities and looking at programmatic interventions at those triggering events. And then Lindsay and her counterparts, when they're talking about a service issue or other issue, gives them an opportunity to evaluate an energy efficiency or other opportunity there. So it's really key to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves opportunistically like that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. There's like 80,000 HVAC change outs in the state of California every year. Like that's where we need to be getting people, because when their HVAC breaks and they need to replace it.
Yeah, I think probably more importantly is a lot of those businesses don't own their buildings.
Right.
So it's not the when it breaks I fix it. It's really if it isn't broke. Right. That from the landlord and from the tenant's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the majority of the businesses that we work with are tenants in their spaces, but they tend to have leases that are long enough, or at least intend to renew the lease in that space, where it seems worthwhile to them to make the investment. Again, it's heavily rebated, so it often pans out for them, even if they're renters, because it reduces their utility cost and maintenance.
And this is primarily lighting too.
Do you get
it's harder
leads?
to change it.
Do you get leads to the HVAC companies?
Not yet, we're working on it. And in fact, PG&E has a number of pretty good programs that capture the HVAC market upstream or midstream. So before the unit even hits the floor of the warehouse, it's already got a cheaper price than it might otherwise. That helps a lot. And then they have a good contractor maintenance, the quality installation, quality maintenance programs, which work with a big contractor network too. So those are the main leads in this area for HVAC replacement.
What about direct with the HVAC, with the company who gets the call that they need replacement?
Yeah, we've been working on that a lot more in our program, trying to build those relationships. What gets challenging is if a unit has already been rebated before it hits the warehouse floor, then we can't provide additional dollars, or we have to provide dollars that really are additional through things like the duct ceiling replacement or building envelope instead of the unit itself. And so that can get fairly complicated and very thin margins to work out from our program. So we are trying that particularly on the residential side, more so than on the commercial side. But those contractor networks are absolutely crucial. We've been working really closely with Marin Builder Association to try and make sure that folks are aware of the energy efficiency programs that are available and the financing. Because actually contractors will do whatever they can to sell their job. If you offer them a tool to help get the sale closed, they'll pitch it.
You guys mentioned earlier commercial buildings are coming under scrutiny whereby they have to figure out what their energy use is in their building, right? And it started at 100,000 square feet or 50,000?
Larger than 100,000, 100,000 and larger, and then 50,000 and larger. No, I actually think it was 50,000 and larger first was the first tier. 10,000 is the next, and then 5,000 is coming.
Do you think that's going to trigger interest on the part of landlords to start doing some of this stuff? Will there be any requirements for them to improve on, once they figure out what their baseline use is, are there any legislative requirements to improve on that, like this 25% water reduction thing?
I think that's the next phase.
Okay.
My understanding of the way the state is moving here, and I used to actually work in the department of the state where these regulations are coming from, is that there's a lot of technological things that they need in place before they can actually require someone to improve as a result of it. So the first move is to actually have mandatory benchmarking for buildings once they start to work out the kinks of the software that they're using to give somebody a score, and once they start to work out like the location that they're posting information and get public perception there, then it's possible that the next step would be mandatory requirements on triggering events, most likely. I'm not sure if folks are familiar with the Berkeley residential energy conservation ordinances or commercial energy conservation ordinances, but those actually require building on sale to come up to a minimum level of efficiency. And they're pretty cool, but they get a lot of opposition from the real estate market, not surprisingly. So it's really important to have your ducks in a row and be sure that your system is going to work before you take on that battle.
Air quality district is going to make me tear up my fireplace if there's someone else.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's wrap up. I'd like to thank the panel for an excellent presentation. You can count on the Centerfold Chamber and the Green Committee to encourage and activate the community around sustainable practices. We're going to continue to do that. That's our mission. We believe it's good for business. It's good for our community. So thank you all for attending. Appreciate it.
That's good.